Hey, hey, hey! It's the first ever real estate marathon. I'm your host, Jas Takhar. My thought process when setting up this real estate marathon was, okay, I got a lot of friends and I know a lot of people who invest into real estate, but who am I gonna bring on? I decided right away I'm gonna bring on the top, the 1%, the top, in that top, the 1% of the top. And that's my next guest. I'm bringing on Mr. Darren Voros. He himself has also been able to afford himself a life of what he wants to do now. He gets to choose. Why? Because he started investing in real estate. Mr. Darren Voros, how are you doing?
I'm good, my friend. How are you, buddy?
Look, I get told a lot I have a great smile, but I gotta tell you, my man, it's you. You take over it. Like I can't take that title anymore.
You're too kind. First off, you've been killing it all day.
Thank you.
I've had you on since 9 a.m. this morning.
Wow, thank you.
I've been watching you all day, and just I know what kind of energy it takes to do what you're doing right now. So kudos to you, my friend.
Well, and you say that because you've been on TV for a very long time. You've been investing for a very long time. Another thing that when I talk about you a lot, Darren. Like, you're one of those guys that I bring up, and I drop your name all the time. You've coached thousands of investors as well, my man. Like, what are some patterns you've noticed with the successful investors?
I think that they're in it for the long term. It's not a short-term game. The people that are really solid investors that I know have been doing it for a while and plan to do it for many, many years to come. I think that people are okay with not having success on every single transaction. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have things that are going to go wrong. It's how do you deal with that and then move forward. How did you come up with that though? Like, how did you get that callus? Right, like that callus in your mind. I've been listening to a lot of David Goggins' book, and he speaks about that, about having calluses in your mind, and you're living it. Like, understanding, and it takes a lot, right? Like, okay, I might fail here. Does that come over time through experience? It's trial and error, right? It's like, until you have a bit of a struggle that you come up against. I think you just always assume that things are going to go well, and that's not the case, right? And I think that when investors figure that out and they can realize that they can get past it very easily, especially the more knowledge, education that they have going in, the better off that they're going to be. And I think that that's why what you guys are doing here today, people tuning in, watching all day, spending 12 hours with you.
It was a dream. It was just a thought. We had no idea who was going to watch for 12 hours.
For free? Like, it's crazy. Like, people taking advantage of something like this, that's where you get started. If you've never been into real estate investing, this is the best way to go about it.
I love that because we did have a question earlier, like with an investor asking, a wannabe investor asking, where do I get started? It really comes down to getting educated, get started, and then start to build out the team.
Absolutely.
Now, did you do a lot of that yourself as well? Like, who is part of your team, your investing team?
I think I started actively probably investing 2006, I would say. Up to that point, I had bought a couple properties, but they weren't real. I wasn't really strategic about what I was buying.
Okay.
And I think that really shifted where I started looking at cash flowing properties, doing multiple units in one property, because that was really where I saw the difference, right? I've never been much of a single family dwelling condo. I have a condo downtown. I love it. It's been amazing for me. It's had amazing returns. But I like multiple doors under one roof, and just for that strategy alone, that's really changed my investing game.
And when we did a podcast now going back to about a year and a half ago, you were getting started into converting multi-res, and you were starting taking 6plexes into 9plexes, or taking a single family into a triplex, duplex, whatever it is. What brought that about?
I think it was just it's a simple numbers game, right? I mean, when you're looking at a single family dwelling that you're purchasing in Toronto, part of it was I was almost looking too small, because it's like, we bought a property, the one that I talked about when I was on with you last time.
Yes.
I bought it for $870,000. I called it the $1 million teardown.
Yes.
And then we tore it down to the ground and built a triplex, a legal purpose-built triplex with a laneway house in the back.
Right.
And I was like, that's good, but I'd rather have more units. So how do I get more units in one property? Because what I was really hoping to get to was commercial financing.
Love it.
6 units or more. Now the property has to qualify for financing, and not us personally as investors.
Because that is an obstacle, hence the real estate marathon, that you're going to run into, right? Like, financing becomes an obstacle. That doesn't mean that It's going to stop people because, as we just heard from Corey and Tiffany, they got up to 100 doors. We had people who have 1,000 doors. You can do it. It's a matter of just shifting what type of strategy or what type of property you're looking at.
And that's one of the biggest things I hear from investors is I have 3 properties, I can't get to 4, 5, and 6 because the bank won't finance me. Because they're looking at you personally because it's 6 units or less.
Right.
When you get to 6 units or more, now it's commercial financing. Now we're into boutique apartment buildings, is what I call them.
Yeah.
Buying a bigger single-family dwelling or something that's maybe multiple units that's illegal, converting it to 8 or 9 legal units. Well, those kinds of properties require 5,000, 6,000 square foot homes on big lots. Well, we have those in Toronto, right? And we have them. And the problem is the purchase price is $2.75 million.
But they still cash flow.
They cash flow even better than the smaller ones.
Exactly.
Because you're getting more units. You're getting 8 or 9 units, and your rental cost doesn't change that much on 9 units as opposed to 3 units.
Exactly.
Because
you can still scale it out. Now, you're talking about purchase prices, $2 million, $2.5 million. Let's work with $2 million. Another hurdle, an obstacle that gets in people's way is, well, I can't come up with the down payment for let alone the renovation costs, which we can get construction financing, and we're going to talk about that. But just the down payment, what strategies do you use to get the down payment?
Well, I think like your last segment was perfect, segue to this because we do it in joint venture, right? We do it as a, most people don't have $2 million, 20% of that is a $400,000 down payment plus closing and land transfer. And
let's call it $500,000. Minimum.
That's not even reno.
Exactly, not reno money. That's just closing on the property.
Reno's another $1.5 million.
Exactly.
Right?
To convert it.
To convert it to 9 units.
Yes.
Right? So who has that kind of capital? Not very many people. But guess what? Like you said earlier, if we need to find $2 million, if we need to raise $2 million for a project, we bring in 10 investors that have $200,000 apiece. Well, now that seems much more attainable.
So I love that you said that, Darren, and we're going to come back into it because earlier on today I was talking about the what and the why is the most important thing. What do you want? Why do you want it? Because when you run into those obstacles, you need to have a strong enough why. The how is not that. The how's not up to you. The how's around you. You'll figure it out. I'm not sure if everyone caught it who's watching and listening right now, but Darren said, look, I got to come up with the $500,000 to close it. He's going to do it through a joint venture, and he's going to figure out, okay, is it going to be 5 people that have $100,000, or is it going to be 10 people that have $50,000? There's hundreds of people watching here, so if you're trying to get a down payment for a property, you just got to figure out what it is and how many people you need and do the math around it.
Well, and Rav Tour was on here earlier, and Rav's the perfect example of a guy who probably wants to get into a property like we're talking about right now, but is has zero desire to actually be involved in it.
Yes.
Let us, the experts, let you manage the acquisition of it.
Yes.
Let me manage the renovation. This is my expertise.
Exactly.
You know what? You sit at home, make your 20%, and relax with your investment. That's the idea, right?
We're going to talk more about the numbers. We're going to talk about the strategies more as well. But I want everyone here right now to send an email to info@reccanada.com because we are together now looking for joint venture partners for these types of properties, multi-res conversions. We're going to be doing a lot more of it. We're actually actively looking at properties. We're tying them up as we speak. So if you are like a Rav Tour, maybe we need to call him, team, and say, hey, Rav, partner up with Darren and REC. I want you to send an email to info@reccanada.com and just put somewhere in the subject line or the body that you're interested in doing a joint venture with REC and Darren. And as I mentioned, we are actively, as we speak, in negotiations with multiplexes in the Greater Toronto area. Make sure to send that email. Darren, let's use a case study, okay? I know you just finished a property. I won't mention the address, but it's a beautiful location in Toronto. Maybe we can mention the area where it is in Toronto.
Yeah, we actually just purchased 2 over the last little while. One is in High Park, prime High Park.
Okay.
Right between Keele Station and High Park Station.
Out of province and out of country listeners, this is triple A location. It's probably quadruple A location if that means anything.
Yeah, and the other one's just around the Dovercourt and Bloor area. So another really great area. Again, going in and buying these big houses on these big lots. So we got one that was on a 50 by 200 lot.
Okay.
So and if you know anything about conversion, what the city of Toronto bylaw states is that if you have R zoning, you can build an apartment building. But what you're going to be limited by is your lot size is going to depict how much gross floor area you can convert. So if you've got a 50 by 200 lot,
Right.
you can convert 7,000 square feet into living space. And as long as you meet the parameters, you can put 8 units, you can put 9 units in there, whatever. So
What 7,000 mean? Like eight to 9 units? Is that what it would kind of convert into?
Yeah, like if we're talking about below square footage,
Yes.
like below grade square footage and above,
Yep.
like, yeah, we would convert that to probably 8 to 9 units, right?
So can we use Dovercourt, for example, as an
Yeah.
example? What did we convert? Because I want to give our viewers like a live experience of how everything worked, the numbers and so on and so forth.
So we purchased Dovercourt for 2.1 million.
Okay.
Right? That one is actually a single family dwelling.
Yep.
We were gonna convert it to 9 units. 3 in the basement.
Yep.
And then 2 on each of the other floors.
Got it.
First floor, second floor, third floor. So
Okay.
we're doing a third floor addition, we're doing
Yes.
an extension, we're underpinning the basement, right? We're creating like a boutique apartment building essentially in these prime locations in Toronto. 9 rental units. In a year and a half, we're gonna basically refinance, go to commercial financing, and then hold that thing as a long-term rental.
Obviously, in that area, you'd want to hold on to it. Now, for somebody who's watching or listening, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not picking up a hammer. Like, Jas should never touch a hammer, and I think a lot of the insiders know. But that's why Darren's part of this joint venture, and we partnered up with the experts, because you have a massive background in renovations. I mean, for what you did in your own property, make sure to go check out Darren Voros' YouTube page, because he speaks about this. The content that he's producing is, like, amazing. What is the YouTube name? The YouTube page name, Darren Voros, that's
Yeah.
it? Very simple. Keep it simple, silly. It's Darren Voros on YouTube. Make sure to go check out the content. He speaks a lot more about these conversions and so much more. How
And
does
you were a guest on
I was on that.
One
I
of the
did
first ones.
Well, now that you mentioned it, then you're welcome. Thank you for having me. How are these joint ventures structured, generally speaking, Darren?
So I think like when you're looking at it, for those people that are maybe not super familiar with joint venture partnering, it's like it's really easy. Working partner, and I call it money partner.
Yes.
That's the easiest way to explain
Yeah.
it. The splits on how they work, it varies on every transaction, right? The way we usually start is somewhere in the 50-50 range.
Right.
The money partners come in, put up the capital, and then put up, some of the renovation money sometimes. Maybe they're putting up some of the carrying costs. But as a group, they're doing that. On the other side, the working partners, that's you and I and everybody that we're bringing to the table, that's our lawyers, our accountants. I'm coming in from construction, we're managing all that, we're doing all of those things. That's the working partner side. And that's kind of a standard split. That's where we start. Each deal, though, is so unique in the way that we structure it and how we do it and what the timeline is and what everybody's looking for. So that's a basic way that we look at it in the beginning.
And so, like what Darren mentioned about putting the team together, I mean, that I think is what stops so many people, right? From an investor's perspective, it's like, what lawyer do I use? What accountant do I use? I mean, I tried to bring as many people as I possibly could today, but even if you thought that was too much work for this type of a structure of a deal, for this joint venture that we're talking about today, that we're really launching for the first time and getting loud about, again, send the email to info@reccanada.com. We're doing all that work. We're doing all that work and the physical renovations. That's going to be Darren and the team. Who's part of that team, Darren?
So I work with Alona Kozial, who's a good friend of mine and a partner of mine. She's on the management side, project management side. I have a construction manager who basically is part of my team. So I have somebody on site every day that is looking out for all of the things, is actually invested in a lot of the projects that we're on. So I love it's an alignment of interest, which we love, right?
Yes, they're incentivized.
Absolutely.
They're incentivized,
and
right?
Danny has been in the industry for like 30 years. He's a licensed plumber. He's like that. He's the guy on site. I'm checking in every day on quality control, making sure everything's done. I'm dealing with the architects, the engineers, all those people, right? It's constant. It's constant.
And sorry to cut you off there. Like even myself in CMOS as REC, like we have a lot of these people on, like not on staff, but we know a lot of these people in our Rolodex. But we still said, you know what? We're bringing in the expert. We're bringing in Darren because Darren knows what needs to be done from a construction perspective. Like if I got a GC, a general contractor, I have no clue what the heck is behind that wall or what type of drywall they should be using. And so, like Darren, you're able to micromanage that.
Well, it's not only that, but it's the process of getting the legalization of the 9
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Because, as a single family dwelling, converting to 9 units, that's not a simple process. It takes time. You got to go to usually what's called the committee of adjustments. But you need people on your team that know that process and know how it works. You have to hire the right individuals to get you over that point, because that's really where all of the upside is once you get that, okay, we've got 9 units now, go and build it, right?
Right.
That's, I don't want to say it's relatively easy.
Yeah.
But, it takes time and energy. But that big first step is getting beyond that conversion, essentially, element to the 9 legal units.
I'm going to take it back down to kind of micro. I'm going to go back up to macro thought process and mindset for investors. Other than getting educated, how does people get over fear? How do they get over that, man, I really want to do this. I want to invest, but I'm scared to do it.
I think there's 2 ways you can go about it. You can either say, and you mentioned it earlier, what is it you're looking to get out of your investments? If it's just a return, and you can do that passively, why do you want to jump in and deal with tenants and deal with properties and deal with renovations? If that's truly your passion, then I say go for it and do it, right? But that's not for everybody. I think people automatically assume when they become a real estate investor that they have to do renovations and they have to deal with tenants.
Well, they see you on TV doing it and it looks so easy that they think that you renovated the basement or renovated the top of the house in 22 minutes. Right? Like without the it just doesn't work like that.
So I think there's a big element for a lot of people that are starting out. Figure out what you're actually passionate about. Even myself, I went down and looked at apartment buildings in the U.S. and I was doing all these different things, and I came back to, what do I love? Right. I love the Toronto market and I love renovation. So that's what I do. I do that every day, and I love what I do. I never feel like I have a job. I'm just out there as an investor.
You're living in your hobby.
Yeah. And I think for other investors that are interested in getting started, for me, I'm always like, just get into the market, all right? Get in, because you were in the market many years ago. I was in the market many years ago. People say, oh, I wish I had that. Well, now's your opportunity. Get in there, right? And then see what happens after that.
What has real estate afforded you?
For me, like last year, this year's going to probably be an exception, but I left December 23rd, and I traveled all the way through the winter and came back March 15th. To me, awesome. My biggest why is I hate winter.
Okay.
And so I was like, I got to get out of here.
So
that's been my why for a while.
Okay.
And last year and the year before that was my first reality of that, where I just took 4 months off and went traveling.
I mean, and because of your investments are making you money passively, you're able to do that.
And we have a team.
Talk about that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to step away, but you have to have people on your team that you can trust and that'll be there when you're not there. Right? And you have that, and I have that, and that's really important as well.
Well, and the fact that you think about this as a business. I mean, so many investors, first-time investors, get involved, and they just don't look at it from a business perspective. They don't have the systems in place, the building out of the team. You do it, like we've been in a lot of meetings recently, and I can tell, like, you run this as a business, and I just don't see a lot of investors do that.
No, and when I used to speak on stage, it was one of the first things I said.
Okay.
Start thinking of your real estate investing as a business. Because people think of it as a hobby, so they treat it accordingly.
Right.
I'm like, no, it's a business. You got to serve the eviction notice. That's your business, right? You're not trying to make friends with your tenant. This is your business. These are the things you do. It's the same in construction. It's the same in all elements of real estate investing. It's like, this is a business and treat it accordingly.
Your tenants, you spoke about your tenants. I mean, right at the start of COVID, you did some cool little things for your tenants. Talk about that a little bit, because you, again, thought about this as a business, your mindset. So once you start thinking about it like a business, your brain starts to find ways for you to reward maybe your tenants or reward some of your construction guys, because you're thinking about it as a business. What did you do for some of your tenants?
I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's simply, I just basically broke it down for them. I know first of all, I know you're struggling. Everybody is right now. So I'm working with you, not against you, right? Second thing was, if here's the resources of all the things you need to do. If you need help with assistance, here's the links to all the websites that you need to check out. Second of all, there's no expectation of rent relief. There's not going to be something where you don't have to pay your rent. Because guess what? I still got to pay all my bills as a landlord.
Exactly.
What we can do is, if you need some help in deferring, we can do that for you.
Right.
And then lastly, once they paid their rent on time or within the first day or two, I sent them a little gift card saying, here's something to support a local business in your area and put a meal on the table for you. That's awesome. To maybe just help out just for this month or next month or whatever that was. It was just those little couple things. And the feedback I got on it was amazing from all my tenants.
That's awesome.
Because it's reciprocity, right?
Yes.
You're giving and you're getting back.
And you'll get back so much more. Darren, leave our marathoners with one tip, my man, from a mindset perspective, an investing perspective, whatever. The floor is yours. It could come from a yoga. My man teaches yoga. That's what he's able to do when he invests in so much real estate. He was actually going to teach a class, and then he did it, and he's still here. He still showed up. It can come from any perspective, buddy.
It's such a tricky thing. You always ask me to do this, and I always
put you on the spot, and I love it. I love it.
I think that just surround yourself with amazing people in real estate, and to me in life as well. I try to bring that group down to a very small, intimate group of my friends and my family, and also my business associates. And I feel like that's the best thing you can do in your business and in your life is just quality and not quantity.
I love that, Darren. And now you, as a marathoner, have an opportunity to surround yourself with some amazing real estate people. Myself, Darren, the whole team at REC, shoot an email right now to info@reccanada.com and let us know that you're interested in doing a joint venture with us. Darren, thank you so much for your time again.
Thanks for having me.
I love you. That smile. What did I tell you guys, team?